Nsfw. Employers of Reddit. What is the most inappropriate piece of clothing someone has worn to a job interview? A few years back, I had someone show up fresh out of the swimming pool. Hair wet, bathing suit and cover-up, still hadn't taken the time to dry off. I went through the interview and a test simulation of the job with her. She actually did very well at the simulation. When I took her to see my boss that made the ultimate decision, he took one look and said no. Didn't ask about the simulation or anything, just no. What's your work, if you don't mind my asking? Life. I saw one guy come from the country club pool in an American flag tank top and swim trunks to the club's golf cart boy interview. He didn't get the job and then came back a week later in a full suit apologizing for his previous attire. Someone got lectured by them, oh monsieur, or lost a bet. He came into the IT interview in polo, khakis and aqua-colored Crocs with an anime-made blushing painted on one and lining up a sniper shot on the other. He was late because security was concerned about his MLP chain wallet. Here we see the wild weeaboo released from captivity, searching for a way to survive. A guy showed up in flip-flops, cargo shorts and a tank top. Ended up being the best interview of the day by miles, ended up one of the best people I ever hired. I still don't recommend anyone do this, but it has worked. Program, yep. Saggy pants with fitty-titty underwear. When he bent over to sign in at the desk you could see his whole butt. I sensed some disappointment in the brackets. Homecoming dress. She knew she was supposed to dress up for the interview, and that was the nicest thing she had. I felt so bad. She was incredibly embarrassed. It was her first real interview. And in the end I gave her credit for at least putting in the effort. It really sucks being on the poor end of trying to dress nice but you literally cannot afford to. Over the past few months of thrifting I've managed to piece together a really nice looking suit for $5 shoes, $15 pants, $8 jacket, $4 shirt, $2 tie, $1 socks equals $35. I just had my first interview for a job for when I graduate college and I was complimented at the interview on my outfit. It took forever to find a matching navy jacket and pants that both fit, but I eventually did it. Because I can't afford a $200 plus suit. Here in Denver there are organizations that help those who need to dress for success, but don't have the means right away. Maybe there are other cities that offer the same assistance that folks aren't aware of, including yours. A pair of flesh-colored leggings that made her look as if she wasn't pairing wearing pants at all. A sweatshirt that opened in the front, that had been pulled to the side a bit to reveal a lacy camisole top. We work as therapists. No fucking way she got that job. For more info, both her wig and glasses were askew. There was an odor somewhere between human and cat urine. And about halfway through she asked if she could take a break because she left her car running to charge her phone. And GT, we work as therapists. Maybe the kerning wasn't clear on your sign. My master's student came to defend his thesis barefooted because his slippers got wet. What's up? Yeah, this is the qualifier. There are definitely some majors where this would be nigh acceptable. I worked in the US Senate a couple years back. We were interviewing about half a dozen candidates for a pretty junior position. One of the interviewees was wearing a Harvard t-shirt, a Harvard jacket, and Harvard sweatpants. We were the first question my co-worker asked was, "Did you go to Harvard?" The guy did, and he handled the rest of the interview surprisingly well. He didn't get the job, but he did become a running joke in the office for a while. Trying for a set bonus, I guess. He forgot to wear his Harvard underwear, so the bonus did not take effect. This was 20 years ago, and I had just moved to the city. I was 17 and spent 3 weeks working as a hostess at Denny's. A friend asked if I wanted to go rollerblading. So I was strapped into my rollerblades and was wearing athletic wear. She then pulled up to her gym had me walk in my up to the second story where the daycare was, and told me that I was interviewing for the nanny job that she heard was available. I actually got the job because the woman who owned the gym was impressed that I could climb stairs in my rollerblades. Daycare, climbing stairs in rollerblades. There is an analogy there, not entirely out of place. I interviewed a young woman who wore a skirt so short I did actually see her underwear when she Saturday down. The underwear was pink. I gave her feedback later that she should have worn a suit. This was for a business analyst role. Everyone else was wearing a suit and GT. The underwear was pink. It does sound like you analyzed her business though. Not an employer, but when I applied for my city's M's it was a pretty grueling interview process. Showed up in a nice shirt, dress pants and a tie. Guy who was interviewing with me showed up in ripped jeans wearing chains and a white t-shirt. This was an interview with 3 senior paramedics and the medical director of the city. They told him to leave and come back when he was serious about it. PJs. She was pulled out of bed, and brought to me and my boss for interview she didn't know she was having. After 5 minutes we offered her a job and she actually turned out really well. I would like to know more. This sounds like an interesting story. Back when I was an hourly manager at Walmart, guy came in with greasy hair, white t-shirt full of holes, and sweatpants. And to top it all off, he looked like he had a semi. Surprisingly, he didn't smell, and the clothes actually looked clean, so that was good. But still, I gave him a hard no, but the overnight assistant gave him the go. Because he wasn't going to be on her shift, and she thought it was hilarious. This guy was a fucking nightmare. Wore that same outfit, now never washed, almost daily. Smelled like death, ass, and cumin, and he was crazy. We were finally able to fire him after he pulled out his pocket knife and cut his co-worker. Thankfully the cut didn't cause any real damage to the kid. But seriously, WTF, and GT, smelled like death, ass, and asterisk, cumin asterisk, one of those is oddly specific. That's the best possible description I have for his rotten beau. Now I can't even cook using cumin. One time I was having dinner in a restaurant and saw a young woman come up to the counter and ask for a job application. The employees gave her one and she Saturday down near me to fill it out. This is when I noticed she was wearing a cap with a huge pot leaf on it. She finished it, returned it to the counter, and asked what the follow-up would be. The employee said, "We'll contact you in a few days for an interview. And when you come back, don't wear that hat. Go spend a day at court. You'll be amazed how many people show up to the judge in their best pot leaf or rebel flag t-shirt." One time, I saw someone go to court with rainbow-colored hair 69 tattooed on their forehead. Last I heard, he worked out some sort of deal. I worked with a guy who applied to the local big city fire department. Apparently all candidates had to submit a passport-type photo of themselves. Although I failed to see how that's relevant. Diversity quota perhaps. Anyways, this guy was a gym nut and also sent a full head and torso photo of himself with no shirt on. When I asked him why, he replied, "So they know I'm not a twink." Well, it must have worked, as Twinkie is now a firefighter. That's the twinkiest thing I ever heard. Woobo, the guy without pants. At my last job, I spent approximately 10 months in 2017 on a research team doing statistical learning research for health informatics. It's a very large healthcare company, and they basically took almost a dozen of their PhD researchers from R&D and market dev, temporarily reassigned them to the new Center for Data Excellence. 2 of the PhDs were director, AVP level, so they each got to bring a team member with them this year. My director brought me from market dev because my background's in mathematical modeling. But the other guy didn't have anyone in his department who was free enough to bring along. So they posted the job and started interviewing. I did the pre-interview stuff with one of the junior PhDs, and then the senior team members who come in. Anyway, 4 days into our interviewing, we get one dude up on Skype for his interview, and he's way too close to the screen, like his laptop's up on his knees. We asked him to move the laptop back a bit, and he gives it up that he can't, because the lower part of his shirt has a huge, fresh coffee stain, and his pants are hanging on the adjacent wall. He'd lost track of time and rushed home, and he'd spilled his coffee in his hurry. We told him, "No problem, we'll find a new time for you. The shirt might be a goner, but be sure to wash the pants in hot water right away." We actually hired that dude, and I think he's still there. Great guy. Honesty is usually the right call. Shit happens to everyone, but how you deal with it is always relevant. A Hagao hoodie. You're pretty much hired, but there is also a private one-on-one interview that you need to complete. Please follow me. Fellow I knew was the counselor at the unemployment center. He said he had to explain to one guy he was coaching for job interviews. Don't wear that hat that says, "Beer makes me smart." I was on the opposite end of this. I was fresh out of school and had been struggling to get an interview anywhere. I finally got a call about an interview at a white-collar firm, and was told to be at the office at 9 a.m. and to dress casually. 2 days before the interview, I drove out to the office at 5:15 to see how the employees dressed so I could get an idea of the work environment and what to wear. Everyone was wearing dark suits, including the women. I decided to dress business casual, wearing khaki slacks, a light blue button-down shirt, and a brown sport coat. On the morning of the interview, I arrived at 8:45 am. I had spent several days preparing responses to potential questions I could be asked. I had fresh copies of my resume in a fancy portfolio, and had done everything I could to make a good impression. I even whitened my teeth and got a haircut the day before. I was ready. My interviewer didn't show up until about "Hey monsieur." She walked in and said, "Sorry I'm late, I had some errands to run this morning." I was a little taken aback, especially considering she came in with a big Starbucks cup. I kept my poker face up and pretended like it didn't bother me that she decided to get coffee instead of being on time. Then I noticed she was wearing yoga pants and a sweatshirt. She shook my hand and said, "I thought I told you to dress casually." The rest of the interview went as about expected. She even told me that my GPA, achievements, and awards in grad school didn't matter. She pretty much just made fun of me the whole time in between stories about her kids. Awesome. Maybe if I would have worn a tank top, gym shorts, and flip-flops things might have gone better. I did not get the job.